Okay guys, so I am making this video really to fill in the gap of the client project I'm working on right now, at the time of recording this at least. But this has kind of been a highly requested video, is really understanding client first. This is going to be getting a little bit into the weeds. I'm going to try to break this down and make this as simple as possible and explain the important parts. One, because I've been in that position and I was trying to learn and understand client first as well, but it's really powerful once you get to know it. Now, if you're a Webflow designer or creator looking to jump into client first, this will be good for you. And also if you're a client looking to understand client first, or a business owner building your own site, understanding client first is something that's going to help you out as well if you're using this framework and system, or if you want to jump into this system. So what I'm going to do is reference their documents. They have a lot of stuff there as well, but I feel like sometimes it's kind of scattered in terms of information, but their documentation is really nice if you want to sit there and read through it all, but I'm going to reference some of that stuff as well. I'm also going to reference Relume because it gets pretty easy to pull from that data as well, since they have a good system set up. I also want to give a disclaimer. I am in no way affiliated with Finsweet or Client First. This is just something that I've really enjoyed using and learning all the naming and everything as well. So that's why I'm making this video. Okay, so now we're going to jump into Client First and start a Webflow project that I have open to kind of break this down a little bit. And so Finsweet has their website, Finsweet says Client First. Okay, so I will note that when you go to their website, they do have their documentation, which I'll show you there, and they also have resources as well. And that's cool because you can get like different templates and stuff as well to get you started, and they have some live builds you can follow as well. And so they do have some videos, intro into client first, mindset, and classes. But I'm going to try to just make this as compact and as informative as possible. Okay, so for now, I'm going to go into the docs. I'm going to refer to these. I usually, since I'm started developing in client first, and this isn't like second nature to me, I usually keep this open so I can go back and refer to stuff. And so to help you out with this, what I would probably do for just starting out is go ahead and grab the Relume style guide. Again, this is free. You can even grab the Finsweet style guide. Finsweet has their own style guide you can reference, and you can pull that as well. And you'll see that it does have a lot of these structures and components and elements here too. Okay, and so you can go ahead and pull this. And it's getting you started. It's a little bit more bare bones than Relume's, but I do like Relume's because it does include a little more. And that way you're creating less. And both of these are free to get, so I can link them in there and you can go ahead and grab either one of them. But I like this because it also includes the sizing and everything, and you can go ahead and get started a little bit faster. And so that'll help the learning curve. At least it's there. You can understand what they're doing, play with them a little bit before you start doing stuff on your own, getting more custom with it. Okay. And so when we get here, you land on the page, what is client first? And the reason why this is so great to learn is because whenever you're just starting out, if you're not a developer, a lot of these concepts can still be foreign to you. Webflow does a great job of teaching you their whole interface and system. I'm not going over that here. And you can learn how to use this and understand some of these coding concepts. But I think one of the biggest mistakes beginners and I have made as well, and I'm just now starting to get better at this over this past year, is actually all the naming. I'm sure there's developers who still kind of struggle with this as well. And the naming is going to be really important on having an organized project, and going to be a lot less painful, and how to set up the structure. And I think this is what this gives you is structure and an order in your project, creating a repeatable system that you can go back into old projects, know what to fix and make, and create new projects and already know what you're going to do as well. I mean, they talk about that here. So client first is a set of guidelines and strategies to help you build Webflow websites in clear and scalable way that any human can understand. Clients, marketers, Webflow developers, anyone who opens your Webflow projects will be able to read, class name, understand what the class is responding for doing. That is correct. Okay. And so what I like to note is that, and they harp this as well, is that set of guidelines and strategies. So there's no like hard rules, right? And right here, we have recommended global classes, and I'll go over these in a second as well. So we have these global classes, and then typography, creating a system for a type, spacing, creating as best system for spacing as you can, and then some other global classes they have here too, and you can see here as well. Now, I will say I like what they're doing with the global classes because they're taking certain things, making them global, like some, for the most part, typography, which for the most part you can keep your typography global just to create a system and consistency on your site. And also, have these like the wrappers and some padding global as well, again, to create size consistency on your site in most projects. And again, you can break these rules. These aren't hard set rules, but this is going to really help you understand, create a system, and then learn how to break it later. Okay, because I think what initially kind of messed me up when it came into Webflow developing was feeling like I had to have a system, like an atomic design system. And so I think when you're early getting into UI, UX, you think that, or you come across a lot of these design systems and stuff that, seem amazing. It depends on where you work, but for the people that I serve, and a lot of people are, building these sites for Webflow, an entire atomic design system is not necessarily needed. It started getting hard for me once I wanted to create new elements and new sections in the site. So sometimes I'd forget that what this thing would actually do, and it came down to a lot of naming, but also I wouldn't name a lot of this stuff correctly. And so here you have the important global parts, and then it'll go into all the naming sections later, and I'll show you all that too. So what they really talk about here is meaningful names, right? So what is this class doing? And so really getting into the naming of how we do that, and using the client first use prefixes and keywords. Okay, 3 core reasons for strategy. So prefixes help us view and use our global classes in the Webflow styles panel. I'm reading this right here. Our prefixes and keyword system can be a smart search for available classes. If you know how to use the search functionality for classes, that'll help out. Okay, so identify and understand what a class core responsibility is in the build, and use keywords to understand what the element is or what it is doing. We should have enough context for the class and maybe no specific impact on the site. That's pretty important. And again, like I was saying, I fell into this trap of not knowing what the heck my class did after I got into the project later on. And I mean, still something I struggle with my portfolio site today, so I am in the works of redoing it. I got to start all over. And there's some other stuff in here as well. But you can see here that they talk about really the styles here. So for example, we may create a testimonial slider component in our project, and we'll give it the testimonial slider as well as the elements inside the testimonial slider, a prefix of testimonial slider. So let's jump into our Webflow project here. I think one thing I should also talk about as well is like the base for a lot of this stuff and like sizing is due to rem, or they're using rem. Okay. Now there is a great resource on understanding these sizes. There's a book, I think it's called A Better Typography for Web. I can link it down below. Again, not something I'm affiliated with, but it's something I've read and it's really good. Really learning these different sizes. And so rem is relative. It's a relative size, okay? Whereas pixels are fixed. So if you set something in pixels in your site, it's always going to stay that size no matter what. They really did this to create better accessibility. They'll dig deeper into this, but just know that it uses rem, and they have some calculations here, just kind of giving you, some standard systems. So they use a 4-point system here. So, and the base is going off of 16 pixels. So you'll see that 16 pixels equals 1 rem. So every 4, point is a quarter essentially. So 4 pixels, 0.25, 8.5, so on and so on. And so that's when you see those sizes, that's what they mean. So I'm going to go through kind of creating a little bit of, they talk about the math here too. You can kind of go into this as well. And they do actually have a calculator. So you can go in there and see this calculator and create that system. So that's nice. So say if I have, it's actually not letting me, oh, weird. I'm having a bug on mine. I'm just going to reset that. Well, calculator's not working on my end, but it might work for you. So they're going the math there as well, and just kind of show you how to break this down. Really, everything's divided by 16s, and so you can get that there as well. So now we have our system here. Now, again, I just duplicated the Relume style guide, and that's great because you can get this for free, by the way. Again, I can link this down there, and it'll get you set up and started. These classes will now exist already in your project, and that'll eliminate the hard stuff for you. But I'm trying to show you what a lot of this stuff is doing. And so they already have all of the naming and sizing here. You can go in there and just modify to get it to look the way you want, essentially. Colors, buttons, so on and so on. And so you can already start building your system there. Okay, and you can see and learn what these are doing here. So when I go into the actual margin extra large, you notice that in this element, my margins are going to be the outside of the element. So padding is on the inside, margin on the outside. And it's labeled here too. And so you can see how large the margin is. And if it's 10 rems, that means it's 160 pixels. Okay, so each one has a rem, at least in this system, of 160 pixels. But this also scales off of essentially the browser font too. So that's what's really important about rem, is that let's say you like to have your font bigger because you're a little bit hard at seeing. You set it to 18 pixels in your browser settings, and that changes as well. So then that's going to start going off of 18 in here. Again, that's relative to what the browser is doing, but for the most part, it's set to 16 for everyone. You'll notice that the body here is also set to 1 rem as well, again, referencing what the browser is doing. And you can grab these and see what they're doing here as well. But if I want to, let's say, create something here, I'm going to try to do this live with you going off the system. I want to create a hero image here. So there's already the page wrapper. And what this is meant to do is everything goes inside of this page wrapper. There are a little bit of accessibility benefits with this, and I've had issues not using a page wrapper before. And so really, for the most part, all it is a wrapper. Nothing much goes on in here. Everything's already referencing from the body. So you just create a page wrapper for yourself. Okay. And then you have a main wrapper. Now this is where other components will start going inside as well. I believe the nav bar and footer should be outside the main wrapper. And so they use pre-written classes here. So, and they kind of give you what you should and shouldn't do. So then you have the page wrapper here, and then the main wrapper again. And then it gives you the page padding for the component, the container size, and then the margin to go ahead and set that up here. And then padding, and so on and so on, and text. So then you're getting into the components now. So let's go ahead and create that here. So again, you don't have to follow this, but it's just a good thing to do here. So you have page padding, all right? So we have our main wrapper now, so we'll do a div. You do this also by Control K. I'm using Windows. If you're using Mac, Command K. And this is really powerful. Instead of clicking the plus and searching for everything, you can just write div. All right, so I'm going to do a div block, and that's going to be inside of here. And I'm going to do page padding now. All right. Oh, okay. So page padding. So it's just giving you a padding of 5%, and that's just doing 5% of the total width of everything here. That's really just so the elements don't hit the very end of the page. It's pretty important. Okay. And then we have our container size. And so we set a container for all the elements to be in. So this is just creating padding just in case. And then we want to do another div. And so you can see here that it's now not hitting the end of the page. So there's some space that lives within. So now we want to do container. And I'm gonna do a medium, okay? So now you can see my container is a width of 64 rems. Okay, so the padding medium on mine is equal to 1024 pixels. Okay, so 64 times 16. Remember, they're on a 16-point system. Or 4-point system, but referencing 16 pixels as 1. All right, and so that's my container now. And I can actually further this a little more by going into my different margins, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Okay, so container, and then I have my margins and margin direction and margin size. All right, so let's create one here. So we have, div again. So here we have margin. So we have margin direction. So let's do vertical. All right. So margin direction vertical, you can see it's only doing this here, and I can go back to my draft style guide and see that as well. Actually, you're keeping it 0 everywhere else. You're only adding margin to the left. Right now, you're only adding margin to the top, only adding margin to the bottom. Okay, so if I do margin vertical, it's left and right, but I don't need left and right. I want top and bottom. So this allows you to set this margin for essentially whatever you want. I want to do padding vertical. Okay. What you want to do is combine the orientation of your class here and then add the size. Okay. So these are meant to be comboed. It's probably one of the only times you'll see combo classes here inside of the client first, because I know they don't do them often. But I'm putting a padding, right? Because I want a padding. I already made the container. We're going to put a padding, and then I'm going to add the size as well. And so now we're going to do, I have existing one of padding extra large. Okay, great. So now you'll see it already referenced my vertical. And so it gave me 0 here, and then I did padding extra large, and then it inherited those and then added these. Okay, so that's how you can create these combos and the sizing you want in there. All right, but now I can add an element on the inside. All right. So now I want to, let's just add an image in here. Okay. Now, actually, the Relume does have an image wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to do a div block as well, and then the naming is in here. And so the way these work, so this is if you have an image that you know you want to take up this size. All right, great. So you have an image wrapper, and this is the 6:9 aspect ratio I chose. The class is already made for me. Great. And then I can choose the image itself, and then that's going to go in here, and it's going to have the class to fill up absolute and take up the space to create the 60:9 aspect ratio for the image. So I can pretty much create whatever image I want in here. But let's say I need something a little bit more custom. I don't want this one to take that up here. So I'm going to do, create another div. I'm going to put my image in here. Okay. And let's just say I want this thing to say, I don't know, just CTA hero, call to action hero, right? What I can do is I can make this the whole component now. So let's do CTA hero and then underscore component, right? Now what that means is everything else under here is going to be part of the CTA hero. And so you know the styling you're going to do is going to be referencing this as well. So now I have my CTA hero component, and then I want to do another div. And then we're going to have CTA, I guess I shouldn't have made that capital, CTA hero, okay, image wrapper, all right. And then I want to do on the inside here, my image wrapper, let's do an image, okay. And then CTA hero, and then dash image. Sorry, it's just underscore. So the component, we have the image wrapper, and then we have the image. Right. So now we know what each class does, and I want this image to take up the full width of this space here. Okay. And so now we know we have that here. I'm going to delete this for now. I still have my padding. All right. Great. A square image. Cool. That's what I want to create. All right. But now I'm going to get out of this. So now I do need to create a next thing here. So let's do Command K. And let's do another div block. And I want some content to be under this. All right. So then I'm going to name this CTA hero content. All right. So then now I know that this is everything that's going to be in here is going to be the hero content. Okay. And so here, now I need a heading inside of here, and then I need some text. So I'll do a text block. All right. Or I can even do a paragraph. All right. So now we have these two. These aren't styled at all. But if I do want to make this a custom style, I could do CTA hero and then do heading. All right. Then I can style this whatever the heck I want. So maybe I want this thing to be like, 8 rems, nice and big, fat, and that's still 1.2 there. Great. And so that's what that's going to be. My paragraph here, maybe I don't need any custom styling for this. And so I'm going to do text size. Let's just do regular. Okay, so text size is regular there. And the cool thing here is I can even, but okay, so maybe I'm noticing that this is need some space here. And because this is custom and it's gonna be the hero heading, I can actually add some margin here as well. So, okay. Now I know I need some margin. Let's just add 1 rem, see what that does. That's a little less. Okay, 2 rems. Great. So now I can start customizing this however the heck I want and know that it's not affecting the rest of my text on the site. And then we can start doing that, adding the type here as well. And it's filling up this width, because that's what I set my container. But again, if you had, the reason why we do this as the component is so if you need to do something specific in here. So I have my component, maybe everything in here needs to be flexbox, right? And so then I can set my flex and then start doing my styling based on that. But again, it's not messing up anything else on the site. And so when you have your component, you can start editing that and know nothing else is going to break. And that's the nice part about it. And so that's a little intro into making classes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to end it here. That's all the time I really have for y'all today for this one. And I kind of wanted to go a little bit of the overview, writing these custom classes, how to kind of go about it, and the styling, the system setup in there. But I would urge you, if you can, to really read through this. It helped me a lot. And then going in there and practicing and messing with stuff, and even looking back at the client first library, it does take a little bit of looking at it, kind of understanding it, to be able to do it correctly. I mean, again, at the end of the day, you're developing code. You can't quite just get in there, start doing it, and understand everything immediately. If you don't have a developing background, play with it a little, learn it, practice with it, and it'll start to click. But the important part is naming and then building your system there. So practice naming, making your components, and see how that works. But okay, so if you look back in here, if you want to spend some time looking through this, they do have, again, going over the classes, essentially making your structure here. And you can see a core structure, an example. That's really great to reference. All right, and they can take you more into that and some of the class explanations and stuff here as well. So it's great to learn essentially what their classes are doing. And then spacing, I think this one is a really powerful part to read, going through all the classes, what they mean, what they're doing, and how to use them. All right, after that, you have your sizing, which again, you can read this and know what it's doing there in your calculator. I'll go over fluid responsive a little later, all right, but they also go over that as well. And then they have the accessibility, which is like a big thing they were aiming for on this, because the web nowadays is being required more and more to be accessible. This is extremely important if you're also building something for a client where a lot of traffic's gonna be driving through there. If you're making products, if you're selling products, e-commerce especially, accessibility is a big part of that. And again, these are just general rules of thumb. You can take this after you start learning their naming, and you can start building styles of your own to create, if you're trying to do a more bespoke site. You can take a lot of these concepts and start really stretching them for your needs. But okay, guys, I'm going to do some more of these. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If there's anything else you'd like to learn about this, I don't want to make this one too lengthy, then again, comment down below, and I'm going to keep teaching what I can. So have fun creating. See you on the next one.